So welcome to Heal Your Belly, Love Your Body, little intro class that I've made. So this class, it took me a really long time to create because it really came out of a lot of long, deep work that I've done with people one-on-one and, with my own self. So I'm really excited to be sharing it in this way. But my intention with this is a little bit different than what I'm seeing around, I guess, is why I'm doing it really. Because so it's about, gut health and helping you heal any challenges you have with your digestion, with your digestive system, and also about our relationship with food and our own bodies, because those things are, I've found to be inextricably related to one another. And almost anyone I know with difficult relationship with food and or their body has a difficult relationship with their digestion. And often it's the other way around too. So my intention is to go deeper, like way past any kind of like remedies, eat this, not that, and really help you build more of a conceptual framework for yourselves, that any kind of remedies or shifts that you want to make in your lifestyle or your diet can just slide into that conceptual framework. I want to help you really create like the nest for yourself so that any bigger, deeper shifts can really occur. So though I love, and just saying, remedies are great. There's nothing wrong with them. I'm an herbalist. I love using, herbs for remedies, but they don't work if we don't have like a supportive framework, that really is for us. So that's what I'm doing here. And what we're going to talk about is what I've been calling the 5 foundational principles of healing your belly and loving your body. This is something I haven't created it at all, but I've really extracted it from my own experiences and observation. So that's what we're going to be going through. We won't have time to go deep into all 5 of them, but we'll go in. That's what we're doing. That's what we're going into. So and just very, very briefly, a little bit of my story and why I'm even doing this or caring about this stuff, why I'm kind of obsessed with it, is really related to like how the way that I grew up. Like I know that a lot of people in the healing arts, like they actually had like hippie parents who fed them, really healthy food and didn't let them watch TV and that kind of stuff. That was not my upbringing whatsoever. Like I grew up on fast food and TV dinners and all of that. And I actually didn't feel that great as a child. I remember being tired a lot. And I remember being constipated, like very, very severely constipated, to the point that like it was just something I dreaded. Like having a bowel movement was something that I absolutely dreaded because it was so painful and would take, days to recover from, because I would get anal fissures every time, I had a bowel movement. That's maybe more than you wanted to know, but I talk about poop all the time. So there you go. So when I was 12, I just kind of looked around and was like, I don't want this anymore. Like I'm old. Like my brain functions in a way now that I'm old enough. I can kind of choose what I'm eating. I can choose my life a little bit. And I really tried to be healthy. And that this is in the 90s, right? And this is when like cholesterol and fat are kind of seen as these horrible things that are no good for you at all. And so I was eating this very low fat diet and like genuinely trying to be healthy. But from a perspective of like control and trying to do everything perfect. But it really didn't serve me at all. Like there's certain ways it benefited me. I stopped being constipated, but I injured my back. I developed 2 fractures, like small fractures in my lower back that I think were very much, they thought that it was related to kind of like over exercise at the time, but I think it was also very related to mineral deficiency because I wasn't getting enough fat for my body to process minerals. Like you eat a carrot and you don't get all those minerals automatically like into your bones. You need a lot of other, there's a lot of cofactors in those conversions in your body. And like, you actually need a lot of fat, especially as a 12-year-old. So, I injured my back. I recovered, but it really like called me to question everything about, you know, what is healthy, what is a healthy diet, what is healthy exercise. And that's, you know, I'm almost 32 now. I was 12 at that time. And yeah, those interceding 20 years, I've really been like not just unwinding from what was essentially an eating disorder, though I didn't realize it at the time. Like any kind of diet like that is basically an eating disorder, right? But also just learning like what is a, you know, what is a really supportive, healthy diet? What is supportive exercise? Like getting really into nutrition from like a deeper, more traditional kind of way that's been sustaining humans for a long time, as well as gardening and dance and yoga. So that's where I'm coming from, really. And that's what I have to share. What I observe is that most people, they think that eating healthy really is like following certain rules, you know, like eat this, not that. You know, like they feel like willpower is a big part of it. You know, the words that come to mind for me are like rigidity, avoiding, you know, also like substituting, like, oh, I'll have, you know, this avocado instead of like this other thing that is supposed to be bad for me. It's very, very outside in, you know, it's very much like trust this expert because this worked for these people in this research study, or it worked for my clients, so it'll work for you too. And, you know, my perspective on all of that is that it's a bunch of bullshit. It doesn't work at all because there is no one way. Like if there really were answers to this stuff, we would all be doing it, right? We would all be doing it and we'd all be great. And there wouldn't, you know, be any kids who have a bowel movement once a week that takes them 3 days to recover from. Like that wouldn't be happening if there were actually answers that we could all just know that worked for all of us. It's not true. So the thing is that we have to figure this stuff out for ourselves in a really moment by moment embodied way, in a really loving way. And I'd say also in an inclusive way. It's not about pushing things away. It's actually about bringing it all closer. You know, whatever makes you most uncomfortable, bring it closer, get to really know it. So that's true, I feel like, for everything, but it's definitely true for food. So what we're working with here, I just recently learned this concept that I love it. It's what I want to help people be is an unrestrained eater instead of a restrained eater. Is the term that is used in kind of like intuitive eating circles. So a restrained eater is, it's a lot of people, but it's that whole reality of whether it's like a diet or like a cleanse. Cleanses can be fine, but it's overdone anyway. A diet or an eating disorder where it's like, I can only eat this thing. But the thing is, like, that might work completely fine for a little while and it seems like it's working. But as soon as you're in a weird situation, like you're in an airport, you're traveling, your high school friends are in town and you're having a party, or you like smoke a bowl or drink a couple glasses of wine, like whatever the thing is that gets, that takes your inhibitions down, you then, you know, eat a pizza by yourself or whatever the thing is. Like all that just goes out the window, and it really creates this like back and forth, which if you actually do have some food sensitivities, eating like a whole bunch of that thing is not going to be helpful for you at all. You know, a little bit you could have probably gotten away with, but a whole bunch of it is just going to put you in bed, you know, for half a day the next day for a lot of people, you know, or give them pretty significant symptoms. Whereas if you're an unrestrained eater, that means like you're paying attention inside and you're giving yourself permission to actually eat whatever feels good to you in the moment. That you don't have that in the same way. Like you could have a weird night where you eat something weird and end up feeling crappy the next day because you're just a human, but that's not going to be the same kind of pattern that you're always kind of fluctuating back and forth between. There's going to be a lot more ease. Like maybe if it's, let's use the pizza example, you know, maybe you actually are paying attention to your body the whole time you're eating it and you're actually enjoying it. You're not feeling guilty. And so you only eat as much pizza as you actually need to feel full. So that's a piece or two, right? And then you actually feel fine the next day. Even though it was like not some, maybe that's like your weird night, but it's still fine. So that's what we're working with here. So that really dovetails right into, or they say that the first principle of healing your belly and loving your body really dovetails on that. And what I call it is wisdom is within. Um, there's no outside expert that can tell you this stuff. You have to find it yourself. But the thing is, it's not a brainy thing. It's not something in here. It's really something that you feel in your body. So I want to do a little exercise, and I do this with all my clients. So what the exercise is, it's feeling truth and non-truth in your body. And just slight caveat, you might not feel it today. You actually might not feel it today. And not everybody, we all feel it differently. So there's not a right or wrong here, but the practice, I'll tell you the practice and then we'll do it. The practice is you say something in your head, or if you're like in your bedroom or your living room right now by yourself, you can say it out loud. Say something that's true, that isn't emotionally charged, just something simple, like where you live. I live in Nebraska. And then the second thing that we'll do is you'll say something that is not true, that is also not emotionally charged, like I live in New York City. I don't live in New York City. So something just kind of easy peasy for you. So that's the practice, and now we're going to do it. So just like close your eyes and get comfortable. Take a couple breaths to, just first feel your baseline here. And then go ahead and say something that is true and simple. And pay attention to how you feel in your body. Maybe repeat it a few times. Notice especially your chest and your belly. And then say the thing that's not true. And keep in mind how you feel in your body. Not keep in mind, pay attention the whole time how you feel in your body. Repeat it a few times if you want. And when you feel complete with that, switch back to the thing that's true. And just say it to yourself a couple of times and notice how you feel. And then you can let that all go. Just take a couple of breaths, return to normal here. So if that felt hard, or it was really subtle, like your body's response was really subtle, that could be just that you're not used to doing it. Like that feedback loop between, your conscious mind and your body's wisdom is, it's like a little weak from underuse, just like a muscle that you haven't worked too much in your body. Which is, it's honestly the case for a lot of people, because we're just really not, for the most part, taught how to do this stuff. Like, I feel like all kids should be taught how to do that. But so the other thing, and it'll get stronger if you keep doing this. Like, your optional homework is to do that like all the time. Do that every day. And also pay attention to any situation that your body's really talking to you. Just ask, like, wait, how do I feel? Like someone says, like, hey, do you want to go to the movies tonight? Like, how do you feel in your body? Because your own body's private language is that it's private. It's not exactly the same as anyone else's. So it might take you a little while to learn it. But that is really the key to knowing what to eat, knowing when to eat, knowing how much. It's about hunger, yes, like learning, to pay attention to when you're hungry and when you're full, which is also that same body awareness. But your body also knows, like, is this food a yes or is it a no? Your body actually knows that. If you give it space to talk to you, it'll tell you. Usually just after, if it's a food you don't know about, like, you can smell it or have a bite of it and see how you feel. and it'll get more and more obvious. So I do this with all food, you know, with all meals, and occasionally, you know, maybe nothing feels quite right, but you're really hungry, you're on a road trip, whatever it is, you know, we just do our best. But I do this with all food, and it's how I work with herbal medicine also. I don't just like look in a book and be like, oh, this herb treats this thing, so we'll use it. It's like, okay, well, what is the body actually calling for? And what, you know, what herb wants to come in and support. That's how I create my herbal formulas. I also do this with supplements, but it's a little bit different because the whole thing with like, and by supplements, I mean like vitamins or just anything that comes in a pill. Because the thing about that is that it bypasses your senses for the most part, and your senses are very involved in this process, you know, your sense of smell and taste. So with supplements, I often, for my own body, like I have to honestly take something for a few days, and then I will have developed a relationship with that thing. And then I can tell if it's something, whether or not I'm seeing immediate benefit or not, because some things are slow, you know, but I can see if it's something that my body is welcoming or something that my body is rejecting. So you don't need to ask anyone for help with this, right? This is something you can do with yourself, and you can know what is supportive. So anything, any food, any like, whatever it is, you know, you get to run it through your own filter like this. So the second principle, just moving on to that, is look to tradition. So I think this is just so important. It's like, these are really the two biggest ones. Wisdom is within, and look to tradition, because otherwise we're just kind of playing a constant guessing game, and we're like, how about this? How about this? How about this? And there's a lot of like kind of non-foods on the market now. And if you eat a little bit of it, you're probably fine. And if you eat a lot of it, you're not going to be as fine. So when we're thinking about like, okay, the foods, you know, obviously, you know, the foods that our great grandparents ate, or, you know, would recognize as food, right? That's like the thing that Michael Pollan says. It's like, if you're, depending on your age, if it's your grandmother or your great grandmother, if they wouldn't recognize it as food, don't eat it. I would say, like, don't make a big like law about that because it'll just be stressful. But if you're making that most of your diet, that's going to be good. Because the thing is, from what we can tell, I mean, there weren't a lot of like the kind of chronic health problems in the past, before industrial agriculture. There just really weren't, especially the big ones like diabetes, cancer, heart disease. Like, those just really were not happening to the same extent at all. You know, I mean, it's a whole different game we're playing now related to industrial agriculture. And there's a lot of factors involved in that. And maybe you've heard of this guy, Weston Price. He was an interesting character. He was a dentist in the 1920s who got really interested in the role of nutrition in dental health, and found that it was huge. And he studied, I think he got some funding, and he and his wife studied people all over the world who were eating their traditional diets. And what he found, and this has been, you know, other people have found this to be true also, is essentially people who are eating their traditional diet, whether it's in Norway and they're eating whatever they ate, you know, whatever they eat there. I've never been there. Or if they're in, you know, the Pacific Islands, whatever their traditional diet is, that they are very healthy, you know, not that they never get sick, right? Because they're just humans, but that they're very, very healthy. Like in the photos he took, I mean, like glowing with health, really, really healthy teeth, bones, eyes, etc. Like all these markers of health, you know, and digestively as well. Obviously, that's just not, you know, obvious in a photo. But so it's kind of like any traditional diet is actually perfect. There's nothing wrong with it at all. And the thing that I would just say is, like, you can't just like switch them. Like, you can't take the Pacific Islander and put them, you know, eating a Norwegian diet and they're going to feel great. Like, they're not. They're probably going to feel crappy. So because we're in this globalized society, and like maybe, you know, your ancestors are from one place and you live someplace else, like you'll have to play around with it a little bit, you know. So the question here, you know, that I'm interested in really is, you know, are there traditional foods that you already eat or that you're drawn to? This is just your little question for reflection if you want to spend a minute on this. Are there any traditional foods that you're drawn to? Are there any like cuisines, like traditional cuisines that you're drawn to or that you want to bring more into your life, especially, you know, related to your own ancestry? You can also think about traditional American food. You don't have to go back to, you know, another place necessarily. There really are a lot of great traditional American foods that of course are a mix of whatever people from Africa and Europe, Asia, and the Americas all brought here, combined with American ingredients, right? And what techniques they learned here. So, you know, and for me, like my dad's family's from South Carolina, and they're, I mean, they're really, really rich culinary tradition there. And yeah, very healthy if you're using good ingredients. Like I'm talking about, you know, slow cooked meats and collard greens and cornbread and all these things that are great potentially, and much more deeply rooted. Like American food doesn't have to be McDonald's is basically what I'm saying here. So that's look to tradition. Okay, so the third one, I'm just going to touch on very briefly, okay? It's include instead of avoid. So this is, I feel like this is such a actually big concept that we don't have to spend a lot of time on to just be like, whoa, okay, because just what I see is people avoiding a lot, like doing a lot of eliminating things from their diet, like often whole food groups, you know, like, oh, I'm not eating carbs. I'm not, you know, I don't eat dairy at all under any circumstances, or that's their intention. I'm laughing because it just feels, it's like, I just feel like it's so overdone. Like, I'm not saying that that's never appropriate. Maybe it is appropriate completely in some situations to be like, oh, that thing, I'm just, you know, not going to eat that thing. But what I do find that works for people, if there really is a food that they don't eat, and it doesn't work for them, they don't necessarily have a lot of energy around it potentially. Like if it really is something that doesn't work for them. Like I've had a number of clients who are East Asian, who are lactose intolerant, like genetically lactose intolerant, and they don't crave dairy at all. So it's not like they're pushing it away. It's just not a part of their world. So I'm not talking about that. I mean, like being like, I don't eat dairy just for this, you know, because like someone told me that it's bad. So I just see people in that situation. It's like life gets smaller and smaller. And really the truth is we want to be moving towards expansion all the time. We want our life to be getting bigger. So that relates a lot, I feel like, to gut health, because I feel like people with gut problems are just told like not to eat gluten and dairy, basically. And try it, see how it goes, you know, for a little while if you want to. But ultimately we want to be expanding, not contracting. And it also relates, I feel like, to disordered eating a lot, because it's just the whole thing with that is like foods get very stigmatized, like kind of like they take on this like power beyond what they actually have. Like, you know, something like bacon or donuts, for instance, can take on this like mythical power because you're saying, don't eat that, don't eat that, don't eat that. So the point of reflection really is like, is there a food that you're pushing away? And is there a way you can bring it back in a way that feels, you know, that feels sustainable for you? So the fourth principle is level up, don't substitute. This relates a lot to including, not avoiding also. So what I mean by this is let's say you are having a problem with milk, like if you buy milk at the grocery store and you put it, you know, you have milk and cereal, whatever, you start farting and you have diarrhea, which like that would happen to me. just, you know, just so you know. The common thing that people do is they then are like, oh, I am, you know, I have a problem with milk. I'm going to go buy rice milk or soy milk. There's like a frigging thousand like fake milks out there now. I'm going to buy one of those, and I'm not even going to read the ingredients and see that there's all these highly processed, you know, things in there that keep it shelf stable for a long time and that are in no way actually food at all. I'm just going to do that because it doesn't give me gas or because, you know, whatever the thing is. So, but really, like in the case of milk, I mean, what I do and what I found works really well for people is actually get really good quality milk from a farm. Like there's, you know, here in Lincoln, there's a farm nearby called Branched Oak Farm, which I'm blessed enough to like know the people, and I used to work for them 10 years ago. I don't get a discount or anything. I just mean I know about them. So we're connected, and their milk is fabulous, and I can get raw milk from them. And raw milk, get this, okay, nobody will tell you this. Raw milk has the lactase enzyme in it. So people who take, you know, pop Lactaid to be able to eat whatever, drink milk, Lactaid has that enzyme in it. So that's like if you're drinking raw milk that hasn't been pasteurized, it's like you're already getting that enzyme. Most people who are finding they have some sensitivity to milk, for instance, they try real raw milk from grass-fed cows, you know, that live a few miles from where they live, and they're like, holy cow, I feel, holy cow, pun, no pun intended, I feel great. I feel totally great. Another thing that can help with milk also is warming it up, not necessarily boiling it, but just warming it up, and adding some spices, because when you're eating food that is warm or hot, it's just going to always be pretty much easier for your body to digest. So doing milk with some black pepper, turmeric, and honey is really, really nice. So like just, yeah, learning how, like some traditional ways of taking a food like that, that's from India. But I see that it works well for a lot of people. So that's the milk example. You don't need to do the fake thing. You can do the real thing, like a better version of the real thing. You know, and in talking about traditional foods, that's true also, like thinking about my family in South Carolina, you know, if I go to an average kind of diner in South Carolina, like I will totally do that. I will totally do that without hesitation. But I wouldn't use ingredients of that potentially lower quality from factory farms and stuff all the time, because I don't think that is, you know, very supportive. But, you know, if you're getting it from a farm or you're growing the food yourself, it's just a totally different game. So that's a big lifestyle shift potentially, but it's also sometimes simple. It just means like buying the different thing. Yeah, there really is. I just want to emphasize this. There really, really is really are a lot of people making a lot of money on fake food, you know, fake health food. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't mean you can never have it, but I would not do it every day. You know, I wouldn't make it your default. It is not helping, you know, having like the super processed soy milk or whatever, like that's not helping your body rebuild itself and recover from whatever challenges it's having. You know, you really need like the real thing is what I find. You really need the real thing to help your body recover from whatever the challenge is. So the reflection question here, is there something that you are substituting like kind of mindlessly in terms of food? Is there a food you're afraid to eat or that you feel confused about? Just spend a minute or so on that for yourself. So the last principle is meet yourself where you are. And if some of this has felt more heavy on like the healing your gut than loving your body, this obviously relates to loving your body. The thing is, they all do, because by loving your body, I don't mean in like necessarily like go to the spa, buy new underwear kind of way. Like totally do those things if you want to, that's completely fine, but that's not what I mean. Really, it's like, I mean, in every moment, you know, relating with your body as the source of your wisdom, and for what it is being and doing in every moment, not for how it, you know, how well it functions as a showpiece, right? So meet yourself where you are. The thing about this is like wherever you are on your journey, like that's, you are where you are. And I know for myself, I know I'm not the only person who does this either. I often feel like I'm behind. Like I am often very impatient, and it's like if I can see where I want to go, I feel pissed off that I'm not there yet. And so then it's like any progress that I, you know, progress, whatever, any kind of forward movement that I do have, it feels like it's just playing catch up. It doesn't even feel satisfying. This is something I work with. I feel like I'm in a good place with it now, but it's a really deep patterning I think a lot of us have, is to feel like we should be farther along some imaginary journey than we actually are. The thing is, you just are where you are. And if you can meet yourself lovingly with whatever is happening, then it's like you really can start growing. You can really start integrating and healing. So, and the thing about like backsliding, like I don't believe in backsliding. That's not an actual thing. But when you fall into whatever the old habit is, whether that's like kind of like disordered eating thinking, or that's, you know, eating you know, food that you know doesn't actually really work for you. The thing about that is that it is you're going backwards to integrate it. Like chi moves in spirals. So you could view that as one step, two steps forward, one step back. And that's like the healing journey. But I really see it as more of a spiral, because every time that you dip back down into the old thing, you're coming with more consciousness and experience, and you're bringing that forward. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. And it's never done. Like you might finish a certain thing. It might just be kind of done, but then there'll be something else, you know, because we're just always growing and learning. So let's see. I feel like that's like a simple thing to say, but it's kind of a deep thing to actually do. So the reflection question here is, how are you being hard on yourself? And is there a part of your life regarding either your health or another part of your life, because, you know, very connected, right? It's all connected, where you can bring more tenderness and self-acceptance, or just acceptance, right? Depending on what it is. Where are you being hard on yourself? Is there a part of your life where you can bring more tenderness and acceptance? Take a minute or so with that. So, you know, the other piece of that also with meeting yourself where you are is sometimes that means getting some outside support, right? From somebody who's not you. But that doesn't take away your power. Like you are still in charge. Get outside support or don't, but you, you know, you're the one in charge of you. And just really keep that in mind, you know, when you're working with that, you know, whether it's a doctor or, you know, somebody like me, it's like, don't give your power away. Like you can get support without making yourself subordinate. Yeah. So, okay, so we've talked about the 5 principles. So just take a minute to like take a breath, maybe like take a little stretch break, because it's like a lot of stuff. So just, yeah, give yourself a little pause. I'm going to do the same thing. I said that I wanted to finish with doing some integration. So what I would invite you to do is we'll spend about just about 5 minutes on this. If you are writing, keep writing. If you're just thinking, you can do that too, whatever works for you. But so it's just to do a little journaling. And what I'm interested in you exploring with yourself is, what is your biggest takeaway from this class that we just shared? And the second question, I'll just give it to you now, okay? Is what's it's really kind of two. Is what is the one thing you would like to explore from this, or what is the one thing you'd like to commit to? Based on what I brought forward, and that what we're working with here. So what I'm asking all of this is like, yeah, like what's jumping out at you? Don't overthink it. So yeah, spend about 5 minutes on these. And all right, if that wasn't enough time, I feel like it's kind of a long time, but if it wasn't enough time, please just continue this on your own. And what I would love is for you guys to share any nuggets, or like takeaways from what it could be what you wrote just now, or it could be something else that you would like to share about either your biggest takeaway or what you'd like to explore or commit to. So